You're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson. On the program today, we have Katy Allers on board also to ask questions. On November 3rd, upcoming, we have Campus Community Dialogues coming up, and we have the theme of cancel culture. To speak to this topic, as well as to ask about how the network is going, we have brought on Jonah Lantto. Jonah Lantto is the host of the Good Talk podcast and is with the Good Talk Network and can answer all of our questions. Jonah, thank you so much for being on the program today. If you could tell us a little bit about the Good Talk Network, the Good Talk podcast, how it all got started, and what is it that you all feature on the network?
Sure. Thanks for the question. It's going really well. I just got back into Minot after a pretty exciting evening at the University of Crookston in Minnesota, where one of the podcasts I'm host of and producer for, Midwest Murder, was booked for a private event. Midwest Murder is a true crime podcast. It's true crime stories and tales of murder from America's heartland. It's myself and Don Palumbo, and we're celebrating about 1 year. Dialogue-driven, organic, discussion-based conversational podcast in my basement. I started the network in my basement in the November of 2016, and through a variety of key partnerships, daring endeavors, and risks, I produced a number of other shows, locally and otherwise, and built my network up from the basement, moved into a full-time studio north of Minot in the spring of 2019. And now I'm here. So I write for a number of different podcasts. I produce quite a few, and I co-host several others. So that's the short form version of the now almost 5-year journey of the Good Talk Network.
What is it about? What is the magic of your podcast that really draws so many members of an audience?
In the beginning, I wanted to have long form discussions on difficult questions with people who have intelligence and wisdom I do not. I have a passion for inquisition. I'm a sharp listener who asks detailed questions that forces big thinkers to speak freely to those thoughts. That's what got me here, is that passion for inquisition. That's where it began. Then I sort of started to understand the art form that is storytelling as well as interviewing. In the beginning, it was just conversations, and it was an effort to ask these big questions and just see what could happen. The more people you talk to, the more you learn, the more dynamic things can become. And again, I truly believe that storytelling is an art form. I would argue that it's humanity's first art form. Before anything else, we were grunting at each other and telling stories about the dinosaur we saw crawling out of the river, right? So that for me is where I would try to guide somebody who wanted to start their own podcast, find a passion, and understand that a lot of podcasts can be very niche, and there are different benchmarks of success and happiness and goals that you can find within your podcast. We set out with a goal for 10 listeners in the first episode. We got a lot more than that. And so we kept it going. And then I kept open to new ideas. It's called the Good Talk Network for a reason, because I didn't want to necessarily have it mean that whatever I'm doing was limited to a single concept. So within the Good Talk Network, we developed the Good Coffee Talk. That was a morning show where it was social comedy and storytelling and banter. Then we had Good Talk Minot, which really emphasized community happenings, local nonprofit leadership, community leaders, and that unlocked a lot of doors to big conversations on things and narratives that were happening within the Minot community.
The Festival of Trees and Friends of Dakota Hope Clinic invite you to the Festival of Tea in the Trees on Friday, November 19th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the North Dakota State Fairgrounds in Minot. We invite our local retired community members to join us for tea and refreshments and live musical entertainment. Come join us and take some time to relax and enjoy with the Festival of Tea in the Trees.
Did you guys see this yet?
It should have been next to you the whole time. Just spinning.
I know. I have it on my desk and it's constantly going. And it's funny how many.
Basically, it should be your Facebook profile picture.
Oh,
I could see that. Yeah. And it seems like you've gotten a lot of audience support in Minot for your work in the network also. What has that been like?
It's really been enlightening because it's allowed me to meet people from the community who I didn't originally know, who I hadn't always known, and really to find out what the folks who are quietly making a difference in our community, who are enhancing our lives, that are improving our way of life and our quality of life. They're not always out there screaming it from the hilltops saying, "Hey, I'm really awesome, and this city that you live in is actually better because of the work I'm doing." We're a humble folk here in North Dakota. So by engaging through Good Talk Minot in the beginning, I was able to just really meet a lot of these people, to learn from them, to really take on some of their knowledge and some of their intelligence, and again, get to ask them really tough questions. And in turn, people listening to the show hopefully could have a bigger and deeper appreciation for the work that these people are doing. Predominantly, a lot of them coming from the nonprofit sector. Sometimes we're talking maybe city politics, and other times we're just talking somebody who's a really passionate entrepreneur. Or we had the amazing opportunity. I was able to interview Lindsay Fry, an Olympic gold medal hockey player who was here through Minot. We got to interview Dr. Mark Lehner, who has possibly spent more time at the pyramids of Giza than anybody alive. And it's just really, what it has done is it's blessed me truly with incredible opportunities to learn from people who have wisdom and intelligence that I do not. And I can in turn use that to make myself better, to make storytelling better. And that's a really big deal. That's part of what has really gotten me here today.
On November 3rd, we'll be having campus community dialogues again, with the theme this time of cancel culture.
I feel like there's a lot of disassociative ideas with what cancel culture really is, what it is really doing in our society, whether or not it's actually new, whether or not cancel culture is relevant and necessary. I hope to tackle all of these thoughts, questions, and ideas that exist within the what is cancel culture in that dialogue with Dr. Jeanette Larshis. For me, I approach things often from a very objective, cerebral, and analytical mindset. I don't know that I think cancel culture is real or fake, or if I support it or don't. Those are, I hope to learn that in the conversation myself. To some degree, there are people who have been, quote unquote, air quotes, canceled, who really were kind of scummy loser people for a long time, and they got away with it far too often, way too frequently, and created a lot of victims and heartache and problems within people's lives. And they deserve to be, quote, canceled. But to me, you got to pay the piper. And for too long in our culture, I don't think people have been paying the piper. That's about as much as I would say on cancel culture. I would save the rest for the dialogue.
Absolutely. So it sounds like if you want to hear more, come to the event over at Campus Community Dialogues, and that's over in Northwest Arts Center, right?
Yes, indeed. Myself and Dr. Larshis, I believe, are the two guests. I don't know if there was a third coming, and I like Jeanette a lot. She's been a guest previously here on the Good Talk podcast. So her and I are going to, we'll probably agree on a lot of things, but we might agree for different reasons. And Jeanette is Dr. Larshis for the students, I suppose. She's really brilliant, and I like to challenge her with big questions, and she usually delivers on some pretty incredible answers. So
I think you're pretty brilliant yourself too. So there's that. I think it's going to be a great
thank you.
A great conversation between the two of you. I have a couple questions for you. I want to start out with the Midwest Murders, because that has been a hit in Minot. Everybody that I talk to absolutely loves that podcast. Now, you know that I'm familiar with podcasts. I do have podcasts within my family, and we actually had to do a podcast for Samuel's, one of Samuel's graduate classes, and I loved it, but I kind of had a little extra help when I did my assignment. But
sure.
And I did stay in my lane because I did it on theater. So I did stay in my lane there. Now, the Midwest Murders, what made you decide that this would be a good podcast? Because, everybody loves the Unsolved Murders or the Murder podcast. How did you and Dawn decide to come up with this topic?
It was mostly Dawn's idea. I think part of it stemmed from the fact that Dawn's other podcast was coming to a close. So after the first glass had kind of realized its final chapter, but I believe Dawn was still pretty eager to be on the mic and to continue exploring her creativity and her passion. And she's got a long history connecting her to law enforcement and a big passion for true crime. I, on the other hand, did not have that same love, passion, and history for true crime. I've watched a lot of documentaries. I really do get into very specific documentaries that have been released about certain killers and certain moments in history. But I had never listened to a true crime podcast myself. I listened to a ton of podcasts, just never true crime. And I was at this moment where the Good Talk had just kind of moved out of my basement and we were moving and pivoting into the full-time studio. So I was seeking more partnerships and more opportunity myself to be creative. And so Dawn really posed that question to me saying, look, I know you kind of said before that you wouldn't want to do it, but well, how about now? Let's just do one. And she caught me at the right moment, the right vibes. And I said, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's send it. Let's have a meeting. So her and I booked a meeting. We sat down, discussed what an episode of Midwest Murder would look like for us, how we would approach it. We built an outline. We started writing an intro. We took the intro that we had written, and I think what else fueled that also was I had author CJ Wynn as a guest on the Good Talk. And CJ Wynn, I feel terrible because I'm forgetting Wilder Intentions. That's the name of her book. Yeah, I was like, I'm forgetting the name. Yes, I had read it as well. And that invigorated my interest in the true crime world in a big way. My conversation with her and her book, and Dawn hit me up with that, dude, we should do a true crime podcast. Like the week after I had CJ Wynn as a guest on the show. And we wrote our intro and I connected with CJ. So for me, I always felt like I knew that research would be important, details were going to be important, and I only wanted to deal in facts. No, we want the details, the facts of the case, the investigation files. If we can get interviews with people related to the case, you name it. For as much as our time and budget will allow, we want all of those details because we're only going to put facts forward in our cases. So we wrote that intro, talked to CJ about it, talked to a few other people saying, hey, would you like to be part of the research or writing team? And so CJ helped us write our intro. It's a bone-chilling, amazing intro. And then Eric Michael Anderson, along with his parents, Dr. Eric and Diana Anderson, they recorded the intro music right there at Minot State for Midwest Murder. And it's impeccable. That intro music, the intro music along with what CJ took our intro and kind of wrote it a little bit better. Those two things, I believe, were a creative catalyst for us. It gave us something to really live up to. Here are these words that define our podcast. It's in the intro. Here's this bone-chilling music that makes your skin crawl. We got to back that with stories that matter to people. And it worked. It worked, and it still worked, and we're getting better at it.
Now, I remember listening to your Good Talk network at the very beginning when you were in your basement, and that has also taken off too, which is very interesting. You're doing some great things in the community, Jonah, and exactly what the city of Minot needs, or this area needs. Now, on December 4th, you have an event coming up with Good Night Live, and I believe it's the Christmas edition, right?
I think it'll be like post-Thanksgiving kind of Christmas edition. There'll be some Christmas themes in there. I don't know if we're fully saying it's a Christmas show, but man, it's December. It's Christmas time. We love Christmas. I mean, I think I know people who are already putting their trees up. So you'll get a blast of Christmas things there on December 4th, and a lot of laughs and some cool guests. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. And I know that people line up to get tickets for Good Night Live, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And you may have to get your own event venue. Build your own. Let's soon, because it's getting bigger and bigger.
That's the day. That's on the list of dreams. I'll tell anybody listening to this, you should have goals in your heart and mind, and you should have them wrote down, and you should know what they are. There should be stretch goals that's the ultimate dream, and then you should have very small, achievable, and attainable goals that you can see right down the street that are right there before you. And for me, that dream goal is to have my own studio, a big studio, maybe not a big venue, but certainly,
at least
and I know, yes, absolutely, full-time studio, things happening nonstop. That is absolutely something that is on my list of dreams.
And that's attainable, I think, with the way that you guys are headed. That's absolutely fantastic.
Well, we have a really cool team with Goodnight Live. I mean, for just briefly, for those who don't know, it's really Goodnight Live again started with somebody who I get billed as the ideas guy, but as I reflect on that, I'm like, people have brought me their ideas and I've helped them become realities, you know, from me or otherwise. And Goodnight Live started as Goodnight Minot, and it was Jake Throwkill, a pretty awesome, well-known local guy. I know you know Jake. Yep. And I met him through a networking group that I was in, a networking group that I joined that I thought was going to be stupid, that the whole idea of networking groups was stupid to me. But I was at a period in my life where I understood the importance of saying yes to things that I may not like or that make me feel uncomfortable, because I wanted growth. I wanted to expand who I was around and what I knew. So I said, yes, I'll join what I think is this stupid networking group. But that was a fateful yes, because I met Jake Throwkill. And after meeting each other there, it was 6-8 months later, the group eventually dissolved, but it was still a memorable time. And that key connection made it more than worth it. And Jake called me up and said, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine and I made some jokes and I was kind of grumbling about my job a little bit or the difficulties. And he said, well, you know, his buddy said to him, well, you know, you'd be a really great late night talk show host. And Throwkill, being the vain and egotistical man that he is, relatable. Those aren't insults. He said, well, just step aside for me, you know? And his buddy's like, no, probably not. So don't quit your day job. But following that interaction, Jake Throwkill called me up and he said, look, Jonah, here's the short and skinny of it. I want to be a late night comedy talk show host. You've got a lot of really cool things going on with the Good Talk Network. Can you help me? I think you're the guy that can help me do this. And Throwkill and I met and we sort of discussed what the parameters of creating this late night show would look like. And there was a pretty laundry list of things that we would need in order to make it happen in its full capacity. So I'm like, hey, you want to be a faux late night host? I can put you behind the camera in studio and you can goof around and whatever. He's like, no. We need live band, live guests, co-host, just like a late night talk show host. And I said, that's awesome. And I would like to help you. I'm not right now in a position to help make that happen. This was just about 4, 5, 6 months before I had moved to the Good Talk Network studio out of my basement. So I know Jake kind of lobbied that idea around town a little bit, really hoping to make it happen. It never worked out. The following spring, I opened the Good Talk Network here in the full-time studio. I meet Dr. Sean Antengney, really incredible writer, really gave me a lot of confidence and inspiration. So after working with her for a few months, I started thinking back and getting to a point again where as a network, as a studio, I want to create more content. I want to make more money. I want to find more opportunities. Well, I got this guy with an idea just waiting in the wings. Now I've met this incredible writer. I have some friends who I know are also pretty good writers, pretty funny people. My buddy Miles Barkham is a sensational guitar player. I think he'd be a great co-host. So with that, I put this team of people together that would become the original creators. Adam Dias was my partner on production here, Dias Media. So with Jake's idea and me sort of being the connective tissue between Sean Ann, Miles, Adam Dias at the time, Brent Schaff, all of us, none of these guys knew each other. And I said to them all, we're making a late night show and I want you to be on the team. We need writers. We need people who are willing to put some time in, who understand they're not getting any money back because we don't know what we have. We don't know what we can charge and we don't know how it's going to go. And we went for it, man. We started having meetings. We started writing. We started coming up with ideas and we sent it, man. And that first show, I have never been more nervous for anything in my entire life than in the opening moments of Jake Throwkill walking out on stage at that first show, just knowing that my work, my name, and all of everybody's name and work, but really just on a personal level. I'm not claiming like individual sole proprietorship, like it was all me, but I'm sitting backstage terrified, standing next to Sean Ann, just in absolute fear as Jake walked out on stage. And then he started landing the monologue jokes and people were dying, man. They're
Yeah.
laughing. And Sean Ann and I both started crying right there, and we hugged each other, and we were like, this is real. We did it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it. It was so crazy. I was so scared, and I've never been scared like that in my entire life. And my family was there, and they saw it when they came. They knew. They're like, I've never seen Jonah look so nervous. I'm so rare that I'm nervous. It's so rare. And so for me to be nervous, I don't know, people feel that, but it went great. And here we are 2 years later with our 12th show booked. We've sold out a ton of our shows. We've roasted the mayor. We've had members leave the team. We've had new members join the team. And all in all, we keep rolling through it. At the core, it's really always been Jake Throwkill, Miles Barkham, Sean Antangney, Adam Dias, and myself. That's really, we've been there since the very beginning, and other folks have come and gone who have helped us along the way, and we couldn't have done it without any of them. It's an amazing experience.
Yes, I have been fortunate to be able to attend one of your meetings, and let me tell you, the talent and I just love how the ideas are just thrown around. People say one thing and then it just snowballs into other things, and it's just a wonderful process to be a part of. So, kudos to you guys on that.
We look forward to having you back in that creative room, Katy Allers.
Yes, I am hoping to get back in there next week for sure. But awesome. To be a part of such a wonderful organization is something that's become just like the Midwest Murders and the Good Talk that have just taken off and done so well, exactly what this community needs. This community needs more entertainment and more things to do, and you're providing it, Jonah. And as a member of the community, I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I thank you for those kind words. We work very hard at what we do, so the recognition is really humbling, and I appreciate it a lot. Looking for a killer time, a fun laugh, Good Night Live, you get music, you get originally written, you get original comedy, you get stand-up comedy, monologue comedy, really cool special guest interviews. I'm not going to drop the name yet, but we have a really cool guest coming for our December show. He's a musician who actually specializes in murder ballads. He has toured extensively internationally. He speaks 6 languages. Just a super interesting and charismatic, one of our guests, super interesting, charismatic musician and interview guest. And we're excited to announce him, and we're excited to have him here performing in Minot for the first time at Good Night Live on December 4th.
Jonah, do you have your hula hoop? Because that would be really cool.
I don't know.
You jumped in a hoop again.
I haven't heard about the hula hoop yet, so I'm very interested to see this.
That was his routine. It was really cool.
Yeah, at the Dancing for Special Stars, the professional dancer of my team she teaches hula hoop. So she's been doing hula classes and expanding her skill set in hula hooping for like 6 years. And so our entire routine was based around hula hooping. So I did a bunch of jumping through hoops, literally, Yeah. That's thus Katie's dad joke on the front end of the show here today was me literally jumping through hoops. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I wish that we had one more night though, to at least just hang out with each other, not necessarily dance, but just hang out with each other. Cause there's some really cool people on that I would have liked to gotten to know even better.
Well, there should be like an official dancers party or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep.
All right. So November 3rd, Campus Community Dialogues. December 4th.
Good Night Live at Mouse River Players Community Theater here in downtown Minot. You can find Good Night Live on Facebook. That's where we'll make our ticket announcement. And Midwest Murder, which we discussed, is a really awesome true crime podcast. You can find it anywhere podcasts can be downloaded, Spotify, iTunes, all those good places.
Jonah Lantto, thank you so much for being on the program today and for helping us out.
Samuel Stinson, Katy Allers, thank you guys for having me. It's been a great conversation, very pleasant.
And that is a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. And as always, this is Minot State University. Be seen, be heard, be inspired, and we hope to see you out there at one of these events. Take care.